Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. We've managed to add some continental wins to our decent Premier League form in the month of September. Our monthly record standing at 11 wins, 2 losses with 2 pushes and a monthly profit of £168.73. When we add that to August's data, our overall record stands at 26 wins, 7 losses with 4 pushes and a total series profit of £314.22 to this point. I'm feeling a lot better this week compared to last, so today's 3 picks have involved a little bit more thought, and we're also going to have some continental picks down in the comments section below. If you think I'm talking some sense, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Without further ado, let's get into it. Our first pick sees 17th place Brentford playing host to 11th place Manchester United. And Brentford, they were bested by Fulham in a West London derby last time out. The Bees opened the scoring thanks to Mikael Damsgaard in the 20th minute, but they would go into the break behind thanks to a quick fire double from Iwobi and Wilson. Fulham's victory would then be sealed thanks to Ethan Pinnock's own goal early in the second period to secure a 3-1 win for the Cottagers. In terms of form, it's no win in 3 Premier League games for Brentford now. However, at home, the Bees are yet to taste defeat in this young season. They host a Manchester United side who managed to pick up all 3 points in their last match against Chelsea. Things got off to the best possible start for United when Robert Sanchez got sent off 5 minutes into the fixture, and with a man advantage, perhaps it wasn't too much of a shock to see Bruno opening the scoring in the 14th minute. Casemiro then doubled the advantage before the interval, but with the scores at 2-0, with an extra man on the field, it would take something monumental for Manchester United to throw away all 3 points here. But Casemiro tried his best as he got sent off for his second yellow card in a 28-minute span. The slip would then continue as Chalobah scored in the 80th minute to really panic Manchester United fans in the final period of the game. But alas, this would turn out to be a consolation goal for Chelsea, and Manchester United would win the match 2-1. In terms of form for United, it's now 2 wins from their last 3, and they are unbeaten in their last 4 Premier League games, which isn't a bad start to the season at all when you consider the absolute circus that United have been in recent years. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, the last encounter between these sides took place in May, when the season was in its closing stages. This match saw a bit of a goal explosion as Brentford managed to pick up a 4-3 victory at the GTech, and at one point in the game they were 4-1 ahead in the second half of that fixture. Longer term, that win for Brentford did stop a 4-game unbeaten streak for Manchester United over the Bees. My prediction for today's game is that it's still very early on in the season and I'm yet to put these sides into a box yet. On the Brentford side of things, I think their messy recent form is that of a lower to mid-table side, and that's probably where they are in my assessment. Whereas Manchester United, there are a lot of people preying on them to fail, but I think they have looked strong in brief spells across games this season. They've perhaps just failed to tie these strong periods into one cohesive performance. The head-to-head record is also tricky to pin down, so instead of coming down on one side or another, I'll be looking for another goal fest in this one. Brentford have seen over 2.5 goals in each of their last 3 Premier League games and in 4 of their last 5 matches in total. Additionally, they've seen one of their 2 home games this season reach the over 2.5 goals mark. Similarly, with Manchester United, they've seen over 2.5 goals scored in each of their last 3 Premier League games and in 1 of their last 2 away matches. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, both of the last 2 and 3 of the last 4 head-to-head encounters have seen over 2.5 goals. Additionally, 3 of the last 4 games that took place at the GTech have seen over 2.5 goals scored. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to back over 2.5 goals for a full stake here in bet number 1. Our second selection sees 9th place Manchester City playing host to 16th place Burnley. And Manchester City, they visited Arsenal in their last game, with Erling Haaland opening the scoring just after 9 minutes. Reinders played him through on the breakaway with the Norwegian slotting home past Raya to give Manchester City the advantage. But from here on out, Arsenal really staked their claim to change the game. Taking a look at the numbers in the second period, we can see that Arsenal were really gunning for the win. They dominated possession of the ball and took 4 times the amount of shots compared to their visitors, so perhaps it was no great surprise when Martinelli managed to find the breakthrough for Arsenal in the 93rd minute, as he lifted his effort over Donnarumma to snatch an equaliser at the death, with the final scores ending 1-1. In terms of form, dropping points in the dying stages of this game means that Manchester City's last 3 matches have seen them pick up a win, pick up a loss, and also draw a game. Pep Guardiola will be disappointed with the sluggish start to the year for City, especially considering Liverpool's relatively strong start. They've won all 5 of their games, and the current gap between them and City is 8 points. They host a Burnley side who did well to earn a draw against Nottingham Forest in their last matchup. The Clarets found themselves behind very early on thanks to Neco Williams' goal in just the 2nd minute of the game. His shot was too hot to handle for Martin Dubravka, however Burnley would not be behind for too long. In the 20th minute, Jadon Anthony found himself at the right place at the right time following a breakdown of the Burnley attack, and he slotted home for the equaliser. Burnley may have even gone into the half-time break 2-1 up, but their free kick was denied by the crossbar. From here on out, there was a distinct lack of quality in finishing, and the game petered out for a 1-1 draw. When we take a look at the stats, this was probably the right result. Neither side did that much better than their opposition. Forest just edging the numbers statistically, but they weren't significantly better than their hosts. In terms of form, that point for Burnley broke a 2-game losing streak, and I think if you offered Scott Parker 4 points from their opening 5 fixtures, considering the quality of opposition, he would have taken it. When we take a look at the head-to-head record, I think it would be fair to say that Burnley is one of Manchester City's favourite opponents. The last match between these sides took place in January of 2024, with Manchester City running out 3-1 winners due to Rodri's effort and a Julian Alvarez brace. Longer term, City have also gotten the better of Burnley in each of the last 10 Premier League meetings and across the last 13 competitive encounters. Last time Burnley managed to pick up a point against the Citizens was in February of 2018 at Turf Moor. Gudmundsson's 82nd minute equaliser cancelled out Danilo's opening goal for a 1-1 draw. When we take a look at the stats at the games at the Etihad, Manchester City have won each of the last 10 encounters across all competitions, with the last time Burnley picking up points away from home over a decade ago. That result came in December of 2024 in a 2-2 draw. My prediction for today's game is that I think it's hard to look past Manchester City for this one. Given their patchy start to the year, 3 points is an absolute must in this one if they are to challenge for the title. Now, Burnley haven't been terrible so far this season by any stretch of the imagination, but I do fear they do have an inability to cope with the litany of attacking talent Manchester City possess. The head-to-head record is also very strong for Manchester City, and it doesn't seem to matter whether it's at the Premier League, across all competitions, home or away, they seem to do the business against Burnley no matter what's going on. However, the odds of about 1.16 for Manchester City to win at time of recording I do think is poor value, and one way of getting some better value here is looking at the Asian handicap market, minus 1.5. As such, we would need Manchester City to win by 2 clear goals in order to cash this bet, but I think there's strong evidence here when we examine the past form. Taking into account all games, Man City have won by 2 clear goals in each of the last 10 competitive encounters, and when we filter by games at the Etihad, we can see that this bet would have cashed in each of the last 9 meetings at the Etihad. Therefore, I'm going to back minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap for a full stake here in bet number 2. Our third and final pick in today's episode sees 13th place Newcastle playing host to 2nd place Arsenal. And Newcastle, they played out a really drab 0-0 draw in their last match on the south coast, away to Bournemouth. The stats really do tell the tale of both sides combining for just 0.6 goals, and worryingly for Newcastle, Bournemouth came ahead on every major win predictor, with the Magpies only mustering 4 efforts and an XG of 0.14. In terms of form, whilst the nature of this draw is disappointing, the most recent result did extend an unbeaten run for 3 games in a row now. However, all matches in this sample were very low scoring affairs, which I think will worry Eddie Howe and co. They host an Arsenal side who managed to salvage a valuable point in their last match as they welcome Man City to the Emirates. Erling Haaland's opening goal was cancelled out by Martinelli's last gasp chip over Donnarumma to end the game honours even at 1-1. When we take a look at the stats, Arsenal may feel hard done by not to have got more from this game. They had more of the ball compared to Man City as well as double the shots, but for me it all comes down to the XG battle, where both sides were just shy of 0.9. In terms of form, that draw now means the Gunners are unbeaten in 4 of their opening 5 games to the Premier League season, with their only loss being the 1-0 defeat to Liverpool. When we take a look at the head-to-head records, the last encounter between these sides saw Arsenal pick up a 1-0 win back in May. Declan Rice was the beneficiary of a Martin Odegaard cutback, and his effort from the edge of the box sailed into the net to hand Arsenal all 3 points. Longer term, that win for Arsenal now means that across each of the last 4 Premier League encounters, both sides have picked up a victory twice. So there's not a lot to separate the sides in terms of recent seasons. My prediction for today's game is that the two sides come into this match on similar form. Newcastle are unbeaten in 4 of their last 5 Premier League games. However, there have been 3 really disappointing performances in there and 3 0-0 scorelines as well. In my assessment, they are sorely missing the clinical finishing of an Alexander Isak. Whereas Arsenal, they also come into this fixture unbeaten in 4 of their last 5 Premier League games. However, they've been turning in a much higher level of performance compared to their hosts. As such, I do think Arsenal come into this game the more fancied of the two sides. However, I do think that Arsenal are playing at full potential right now, whereas Newcastle have a gear or 2 to climb. That observation, combined with a patchy head-to-head record in recent years, is really preventing me from backing the North Londoners outright here. I do still fancy them to be the better side on the day, so instead of backing Arsenal outright, I will be laying Newcastle here for a full stake in bet number 3, and the final bet of today's episode. So there we have it, 3 picks in today's episode, starting off with Brentford versus Manchester United. I'm going to back over 2.5 goals, odds of 1.73, a £50 full stake to return 36.50. Later on the Saturday, Manchester City play host to Burnley. I'm going to back Manchester City at minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap, odds of 1.46, so a £50 full stake will return 23 in kind. And finishing off today's episode on the Sunday, Newcastle Arsenal, we're going to be laying the home side at odds of around 1.37, a £50 full stake to return £18.52. So across the weekend, we're going to be risking £150 to hopefully pick up as much as £78.02. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into the next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more content. Don't forget to check out the continental picks in the pinned comment down below. And as always, have yourself a lovely day.